I often say that when we meditate, we start to see our own minds, and that is the purpose of meditation. And it is meditation, actually, is to see our own minds. That is meditation, and it is the object of meditation, and it is the result of meditation. 그러니까 우리의 마음을 이렇게 보는 게 그게 명상이면서 명상의 자체이면서 명상의 결과이면서 명상의 목적이라고도 할 수 있어요. So when we start to see our minds, we start to become free from our minds. This is the point of meditation, is to become free from our relative mind, or we say conditioned mind. Conditioned mind means the habitually thinking mind. This is what must be overcome or transcended, and this is what causes all of our suffering. 그러니까 이 생각하는 마음이 이제 모든 고통의 원인이고 그 자체가 고통이고, 이제 명상의 그 목적은 이 마음을 초월하는 거예요. 근데 이 마음을 어떻게 초월합니까? 이 마음을 보게 되면 이 마음으로부터 이제 벗어나게 된다는 거죠. So normally, we don't see our minds. We don't pay attention to our minds. We don't even know what's going on in our minds. We have no idea what's going on in our minds. We have lots of ideas about what's going on in the world. We know about the war in Ukraine, but we don't know the war within ourselves. We know about the conflict in the Middle East, but we don't know the conflict within ourselves. We know the suffering in Africa. So basically, the point of meditation is to see our minds. And normally people, we don't see our minds. We see many things, and we know many things, but we don't see the mind, and we don't know the mind. And we don't know how the mind works. And people don't really care. Or they don't have this concern about how the mind works, or what the mind is, or they don't have a wish to see the mind. They're mostly concerned about external things, their health, money, and so it's kind of funny, because the mind is the main determinant of happiness and suffering, yet it is something that is completely ignored. It's not something that anyone really pays any attention to. So funny. 그러니까 너무 웃기는 게, 이제 마음이 이제 행복과 고통을 결정하는데, 사람들은 아는 것도 많고 보는 것도 많은데 이제 마음을 보지 않고 마음을 알지 못한다는 거예요. 좀 웃기는 얘기 아니에요? The Buddhism, we emphasize the importance of the mind, because the mind, when the mind is happy, we're happy, and when the mind suffers, we suffer. So the main point in meditation is to finally see our minds, and by seeing our minds, we become free from our minds. What I mean by mind here is the relative mind, or the conditioned mind. So there's two kinds of minds. One is the mind's nature, or the nature of mind, which is pure and untainted. And then the conditioned mind, which is the habitual mind, the habitually thinking mind. And that is the mind that has to be transcended. So most people are just caught in this mind. They're just caught in this mind. They live in this mind, the conditioned mind. And this conditioned mind is like a prison for most people. It's a prison of suffering. It's a prison of the cycle of suffering, which we call samsara. So, so Buddhism is to become free from this conditioned mind. And how do you become free from the conditioned mind? By becoming aware of the conditioned mind. 일반적으로 사람들은 상대적인 마음, 생각하는 마음에 이렇게 갇혀서 살고 있다는 거예요. 그렇게 살아서 이제 괴로운 거고, 불교라고 하면, 명상이라고 하면 이제 이런 습관적인 마음을 초월하는 거예요. 습관적인 마음으로부터 벗어나는 거예요. 습관적인 마음으로부터 벗어나는 길은 습관적인 마음을 보는 거예요. 보게 되는 거예요. Yeah, everyone has a mind, but no one pays any attention to it, and no one sees the mind. And why don't people see the mind? Because they're so caught up in their thoughts. 사람들이 마음을 보지 못하는 이유는 이제 생각에 계속 사로잡혀 있기 때문입니다. So when we become free from the thoughts, and by becoming free from the thoughts, what I mean is the becoming awake, or becoming awake from the delusion, which is the thinking mind. And so when we're caught up in our thoughts, it's like the... Can you hand me this globe here? Can you see this globe? Is there a globe there?
Yes.
Okay, can you hand me? Yeah. So our thinking mind is like this. Oh, I'm having a bad day, I don't feel good. There's nothing to eat. I always feel bad. I don't have very many friends. I don't have money, whatever. You're just always thinking, right? And usually our thoughts are self-centered thoughts about yourself. You always think about yourself. And it's so strange why people only think about themselves, right? You think about you, you think about you, you think about you, and so forth. And I think about me. This is crazy because so many people live in this world, but we only think about one person. Isn't that crazy? According to Buddhism, that's crazy. Because you're always thinking about yourself. Your health, why you're not happy, how to be happy, things like that. You're always, it's like a extreme obsession. And these are, this is how your mind is when you're always thinking. This is how your mind becomes, like this. So what can you see when your mind is thinking? Can you see something? No, you can't see. That's the point. You don't see anything. You're always caught up in your thoughts. You don't see anything. You don't see your mind. So let's say you're able to let go of your thoughts. By letting go of your thoughts, that is the meaning of being awake, or being aware, or awareness. Because awareness comes by letting go of your thoughts. That is what is meant by awareness. Because when you're caught in your thought, you're not aware. When you're lost in your thought, you're not aware. And so the best way, and this is how to meditate. You have your thoughts, you're right. You have your thinking. You're always thinking about the past, or something you'll do in the future, or some problem you have with friends or people, or whatever. You're always thinking like this. Always thinking. So your mind is always cloudy like this. Your mind is always busy, cloudy. Your mind is not clear. And how to make the mind clear? How to make this globe clear? How to make it clear? What do you think? How do you make this globe clear? Huh? You don't know? What? Yeah, leave it alone. You just leave it alone like this. You just leave it alone. You leave it alone. That's meditation. You leave your mind alone. And what happens to your mind? What happens to the globe? it becomes clear. You don't have to make it clear. The globe, in essence, is clear. So the globe's essence is manifest if you leave the globe alone, right? So the same is with our minds. If you leave the mind alone, the mind's clear essence, we call it clarity, the clear mind manifests automatically, alone, like this. That's how the mind works. That is what's meant by meditation. That is meant by what is meant by awareness. Awareness means leaving it alone. Awareness is the opposite of distraction. And being distracted means being caught in your thoughts. So awareness means leaving the thoughts alone, not interacting, not getting involved in the thoughts. That's the meaning of awareness. Awareness is being aware of the thoughts, but not being caught by the thoughts. Being aware means not being affected by the thoughts. Being aware means not giving any importance to the thoughts. Because thoughts have no importance, only what meaning and importance we give to it. And same with emotions. Same with sadness, same with anxiety. Anxiety by itself has no meaning, has no essence, has no importance. Only what importance we give to anxiety, only what meaning we give to anxiety. So that is the meaning of awareness, is to not give any importance, not give any meaning, not interacting, just being aware. And when you do that, when you leave the thoughts alone, when you leave the emotions just as it is, just being aware, not being involved, then what happens? What happens? What happened here? Naturally subsides. Thoughts and emotions naturally subside in the presence of awareness. And the mind becomes clear. We say it becomes clear, but it is always clear. Mind is always clear. Our nature of mind is always clear. And the nature of mind manifests by itself. So that's what happens in meditation. That is what is meant by meditation. And so what happens is you start to see what's going on in your minds. You start to see that the way you are thinking. You start to see your thoughts. Basically, it's actually quite simple. As we meditate, you start to see your thoughts. Because normally you don't see your thoughts. People don't see their thoughts. They're only caught in their thoughts. They're only lost in their thoughts. They don't see their thoughts. People, they don't see their thoughts. They don't know what they're thinking. They're always thinking, but don't know what they're thinking. Because they're always caught in their thoughts. So to see your thinking is to become free from your thinking. To see your thinking is what is meant by meditation, actually. That is the essence of meditation. It's very simple, actually. So simple, but so difficult. Because we are so used to just being lost in our thoughts. We don't see the thoughts objectively. We don't see the thoughts directly. And seeing the thoughts means being free from the thoughts. And being free from the thought is the essence of meditation. And we say in Tibetan Buddhism, liberating the thoughts. Liberating the thoughts. In other words, thoughts arise and they are liberated or self-liberated. They are freed by itself. That is the meaning of meditation. Because all of our suffering comes from being attached to our thinking. That's it. All of our suffering, all of the kleshas, all attachment comes from being attached to your thoughts. All anger as well as resentment comes from being attached to our thoughts. All jealousy comes from being attached to our thoughts. All arrogance comes from being attached to our thoughts. All ignorance comes from being attached to our thoughts. So what is the opposite of the kleshas then? It is to let go of the thoughts, let go of the thinking. And how to let go? By being aware. When you become aware of the thinking, then the thoughts are automatically released. They're automatically freed by itself. And meditation deals with this, released by itself. In other words, automatically. Means meditation, you don't do it, you don't try to release thoughts. Thoughts are released within meditation. So that is the what is meant by meditation. 그러니까 명상이라고 하는 것은 생각하는 마음으로부터 이제 자유로워진다고 말씀드렸잖아요. 이 모든 고통은 생각으로 만들어지는 거예요. 그래서 명상은 어떻게 보면 굉장히 간단해요. 그러니까 생각으로부터 자유로워지는 게 명상이에요. 근데 엄청 또 어려워요. 뭐냐면 생각의 힘이 너무 강력하기 때문에. 생각으로부터 자유로워지는 방법은 생각을 보는 거예요. 이렇게 생각을 보는 거. 모든 사람은 계속 생각을 하고 있지만 생각이 보이지 않아요. 사람들에게. 뭔 생각하고 있는지 모른다는 거죠. 왜냐하면 생각에 사로잡혀 있고 생각에 빠져 있고 근데 생각을 알아차리지 못한다는 거예요. 생각을 객관적으로 보지 못한다는 거예요. 그러니까 생각을 알아차리는 것이 명상의 진수예요. 이게 다예요. 그러니까 근데 이거를 할 줄 모른다는 거예요. 그리고 이것만 배우면 된다는 거예요. 생각을 보는 것만 할 줄 아시면 그럼 생각으로부터 자유로워지고 생각하는 마음으로부터 자유로워지고 그래서 what do we see when we become aware of our minds? There's many kind of things we see, categories, the way the mind operates. And one thing is that we see the propensia. We call it the propensia. Propensia means in English proliferation. It's like 우리말로 하면 증장. Like it means like one thought gives birth to another thought, and then another thought, and then it proliferates. It's like a chain of thoughts. And this chain of thoughts we call the chain of delusion. And so this is the way the mind operates. It's called propensia or proliferation, mental proliferation. So this is the basic habit of the mind, is the mental proliferation. And so we start noticing the proliferation, the mental proliferation. That's the first thing we notice. Not the first thing, but that's one of the things we noticed. And every other thing is actually within this proliferation. Is contained within this all the kleshas, all the habitual patterns, the mental habitual patterns. They are all contained within this propensia or mental proliferation. 그러니까 명상을 하면 무엇을 보게 되느냐? 이제 여러 종류의 그런 습관을 보게 되는데. 첫 번째 보게 되는 그런 것은 이제 propensia라고 해요. 우리말로 내가 까먹었네. 희론이라고 하더라고. 희론. 이제 희론이라는 말은 이제 불교 용어인데 이렇게 쉽게 말하자면 생각이 증장을 의미하는 거예요. 생각이 이렇게 이어가서 이렇게 생각의 사슬이 만들어지고 이제 이런 것을 의미하는 거예요. 그래서 그게 이제 propensia, 그게 이제 그것을 보게 되는 거예요, 우리가. 그래서 so what else do we see when we start to see our minds? Of course, we see the kleshas. We see the 5 kleshas, the 5 main kleshas. Actually, everything is stained with ignorance. All the kleshas are kind of stained with ignorance. In other words, they are saturated with ignorance. What are the five kleshas? It is or kleshas meaning the negative emotions. There are five main categories of the negative emotions. These five kleshas is the ignorance. Do you know ignorance? What's the next one? Attachment, or we say desire, attachment, and then the anger or hatred or like resentment, these kind of things. Aversion, and then there's the arrogance, and then the jealousy. These five kleshas. And the first klesha is we call the king of kleshas. That is the ignorance, and ignorance is the cause of all the other kleshas, and we call it the king of the kleshas, king of the negative emotions. And if you actually overcome ignorance, all the other kleshas completely die. They are rooted in ignorance, all the kleshas. Everything, all the negativity, all the suffering is rooted in ignorance. So if you cut the root of ignorance, then everything just dies on its along with ignorance, because everything is ignorance actually. All the hatred is ignorance, attachment is ignorance, arrogance is ignorance, greed is ignorance, jealousy is ignorance. Everything is ignorance. So we're all ignorant. So I'm ignorant and you're ignorant. So the ignorance is the one that is contained within all the other kleshas, and the kleshas themselves are what we start to see as we see the mind. 그 마음을 보기 시작할 때는 이제 번뇌가 보이기 시작해요. 근데 모든 이제 번뇌가 5가지가 있죠. 번뇌의 왕은 이제 무명이라고 해요. 무지라고도 할 수 있고, 이제 이게 그 모든 번뇌의 원인이죠. 여기서 모든 번뇌가 비롯됩니다. 그 무명에서 이제 그 집착 아니면 욕망, 뭐 욕심 이런 게 이제 생기고, 그 다음에 이제 분노, 증오, 미움 이런 게 생기고, 그 다음에 뭐 오만, 그리고 질투, 이렇게 5가지가 있어요. 그래서 근데 이제 모든 번뇌에 스며들어 있는 게 무명이에요. 그래서 질투도 무명이고 무지고, 그러니까 오만도 무지고, 집착도 무지고, 욕망도 무지고, 욕심도 무지고, 그리고 미움도 무지라는 거예요. 그래서 무지를 잘라버리면, 이제 무지가 없어지면, 그러니까 그럼 모든 클래샤가 따라서 죽어요. 그래서 이게 이제 모든 게 이제 사람들이 그냥 쉽게 말하자면 무지한 거예요. 그래서 여러분들도 무지하고 나도 무지한 거예요. 무지하게 무지한 거예요. 아무튼 so we start to see that the mind, it operates by the kleshas. In other words, this is the habitual mind. I mean, the conditioned mind, fueled by the kleshas. I could say it is fueled by the kleshas. I won't be able to discuss all the things that you see when you become aware of the mind. Anyway, you see I'll just tell you what categories. Some categories. You see the propensia, which is the proliferation of thoughts. You see that you are distracted all the time. That means, in other words, means you are just completely lost in your thoughts 99% of your time. That's what you start to see. And you see thoughts, you have so many thoughts, and you see thoughts are very, very powerful and very, very deceptive and very persuasive. And you see this kind of thing. That's the propensia. And then the second category, you see the kleshas, negative emotions, desire, desire. And that how is that manifest? It manifests through thoughts. And then let's say hatred. Hatred is a big category also. Let's say someone says something bad about you, or someone leaves a negative comment on your post or whatever, and then what happens? You get angry. And then you start to thinking about how terrible this person is and how unfair this is, or whatever. That's anger. So, and then jealousy, you see someone in Jeju-do, in Instagram, and you're not happy really that they're in Jeju-do. Are you happy that they're in Guam or they're in Hawaii? They're having a good time and they have maybe they're drinking nice drinks and they're with attractive people and they're scuba diving or they're paragliding. Are you happy they're paragliding? That's what you try to do. But are you happy though, really? No, but it doesn't come naturally. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way you should think. That's the way you should think. I'm saying, do people think like that? No, people don't think like that. I'm not happy either when I see people scuba diving in Hawaii. I'm just thinking, oh, they're scuba diving in Hawaii. I'm here in Korea, not scuba diving. So that's what I'm thinking. Scuba diving is it's terrifying. Anyway, the point is that so jealousy, and then you think, oh, whatever. Uh, so this then you have jealousy and you have arrogance. Arrogance is something that occurs when something goes well for you, or you do something well, or you're making good money, or whatever. Everything, whatever you do, that's something that is like positive. Then some kind of arrogance comes with that. Let's say your company gets big big job and you make a lot of money, or you do some kind of creative work that you're very proud of, you become a little bit like this. Oh, you're proud. That's arrogance. It's okay. I'm saying that's natural. People always get arrogance when they do something good. So so anyway, that is what you start to see, these kleshas. And then another category this is another very important category, and that is called hope and fear. Hope and fear. And you see the mind operates by hope and fear. And the mind is completely caught up by hope and fear. Hope and fear means like you hope for good things, like money and success, and there's nothing wrong with hoping, but it's when you become obsessive, or when you become attached. This is very important to understand. Is hope and fear is not in itself bad. It's kind of natural, but it's when you become attached. Like for example, you hope your company does well and successful, right? But do you know your company will do well? You have guarantee? And is there any way to really know how your company will do? You don't know, right? We don't know what will happen in the future, right? Or are you single? Do you wish to meet a very handsome man and get married? Do you wish that? Of course, you don't wish that? Huh? Maybe? What do you think? You want to meet an attractive woman and have a fulfilling relationship, right? Sure. So anyway, the point is that you have this hope, and we all have hope and fear. There's nothing wrong with that, but because we don't know the future. We don't know if your company will be successful. You don't know if you will meet a beautiful woman. We don't know these things. So because of that, if we have attachment and we don't get what we want, we don't get what we hope for, then that causes suffering. So if you are open and say, oh yes, I hope my company does well, but if it doesn't, it's okay, like that. That kind of attitude is very healthy and very realistic. And also it's better for your company to have that kind of attitude. Also for you to have an attitude, sorry to point you out, but if you become like obsessive, let's say with someone, or, oh, I have to date her. If I don't date her, my life is over. like this. If you have this obsession or attachment, that will for sure bring suffering. Even if you were to get her, that will for sure bring suffering. You cannot date or get married because you want to. There has to be some kind of causes and conditions that perpetuates dating or marriage. So you don't know that. You don't know if you can or not. You don't know if you can make money, if you don't know you can be famous. You don't know that. So if you become obsessed or attached to that, that will cause suffering. So you have to have this attitude, which is a healthy attitude. Okay, I would like to date an attractive woman and have a good relationship, but if I don't, it's also okay. I can live my life best I can, be happy. And you have to have this attitude because this attitude is healthy and realistic, and also it will help you get what you want. That's the point. In other words, if you are just like so desperate, like getting money or getting fame or getting a woman or getting a relationship, because of the desperateness, that actually like pushes away the potential of being rich, being successful, being famous, as well as being in a relationship. So if you're more cool, if you're more like, okay, whatever, I'm fine with it. I'm happy as I am. I'm satisfied as I am. I'm happy. But if a relationship occurs, okay, that's okay also. Good. Very good. I would like that, but if not, no problem. Okay, I'm happy as I am. I'm content. But if I get money, if I become rich, okay, no problem. Nobody has a problem getting rich, right? So I can do something good with the money. I can help others. I can offer to temples, whatever. This is very good if I'm rich. But if I'm not rich, it's also no problem. I'm still happy. That is the healthy, realistic, and also effective attitude. Effective meaning effective in getting what you want, because when you are kind of take care of your mind and take care of yourself and be content and happy and grateful, then the universe helps you. Then the kind of merit comes to you, and that in itself is merit. And the universe is always trying to help you go to the right direction. You just need to open your mind, open our hearts to allow that to happen. And how do we allow that to happen? We have to let go of our hope and fear. We have to let go of our attachment. And so that's the kind of another aspect of the mind that we see is hope and fear. So there's some other categories, but today we'll just talk about those categories. But this covers most of the, most of the categories. Okay, one more category is we call the dissatisfaction or discontent. That is another huge aspect. The habit of the mind is the discontent or dissatisfaction. And that is the kind of this kind of manifests usually in sadness or in kind of anxiety. And this is kind of what is meant by dukkha, this is what Thoreau said. Thoreau said that most people live lives of quiet desperation. So that is the kind of how people live, is in this kind of quiet desperation. And this is what is meant by the deep-rooted dissatisfaction and discontent. That is kind of the basic layer that covers the nature of mind or our true nature. And that is the basic layer, like a layer of mud or layer of like dust. And it covers our natural joy and happiness and freedom and wisdom and love, which is our nature. And this kind of dissatisfaction, it just covers this love that is always present, which is our true nature. So that is another thing we start to see. But this layer actually is not very visible in the beginning because it's a very subtle layer, and it's a very it's not so manifest immediately. But when your mind gets more subtle and more deep, then this layer of dissatisfaction is actually seen. And when you see the layer of dissatisfaction, then you become free from the layer of dissatisfaction. And that is the meditation, is to see the mind, and seeing the mind, you become free from the negative and like negative cycle or negative habit of the mind. You start to see the negativity of the mind, and you become free from the negativity of the mind. And that is the essence of meditation. Okay.